Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are plunging into the dark, really digitized world of one of the most sensational crimes of the last decade, the 2012 case of Luka Magnotta.
For a lot of you, this story is probably defined by the headlines or maybe that Netflix documentary, Don't Flock with Cats.
Right.
But when you actually dig into the sources, the journalism, the court records, the criminology, you see it's not just a true crime story. It's a real warning about how the internet can just weaponize attention.
Exactly. So our mission today is to get past the sensationalism and really pull together the source material around two key themes. First, we have to understand Magnotta's obsessive, calculated campaign for notoriety in what we now call the attention economy.
He wasn't just violent, he was a performance artist of violence.
Yeah. And second, we need to explore the hard data, the statistically confirmed link that those online sleuths sort of intuitively understood.
You mean the link between animal cruelty in youth and, well, a much higher chance of committing serious interpersonal violence later on?
Precisely. To do this, we're pulling from journalistic accounts of the murder and conviction, and we're setting that right alongside a really in-depth criminological study, the Swiss National Self-Reported Delinquency Survey, which gives us the data.
It's a deep dive into the architecture of modern villainy, where just being seen is more important than anything else. And it all starts with this desperate desire for fame.
The foundation of his whole identity was
it
was failure and this deep corrosive insecurity. He was born Eric Newman back in 1982.
Right.
And by 2006, he legally changed his name to Luka Magnotta. It was a total reboot, an attempt to craft a persona he thought was celebrity-worthy.
It's like he was a ghost trying to manufacture a body. He failed as a model, he failed as a stripper, he failed in adult films. So the internet became his digital workshop.
And when you say he used the internet, it wasn't just posting on Instagram. This was a sophisticated, meticulous, frankly, an exhausting campaign of self-promotion.
That's it. You find this in the sources. He generated over 70 unique Facebook profiles. Yeah, 70. And they were all designed to interact with each other. They'd comment on his photos, praise his fake achievements, cross-reference all this fake information he was seeding on blogs and forums.
The sheer administrative work of that.
Yeah.
Just to create an echo of fame. It's staggering. What was the goal with this whole digital masquerade?
He was trying to build a narrative to make himself seem important. He made up these completely wild links, suggesting relationships with figures like the Canadian serial killer Karla Homolka.
So he was trying to borrow her notoriety.
Exactly. He even hinted he had a connection to Madonna. He was just trying to build a digital footprint that made him look too important to ignore.
But when that fake fame didn't get him the kind of real, persistent visibility he craved, he pivoted.
And that pivot was horrific. He figured out that sharp content gets attention way more reliably than fake celebrity gossip.
So that's when he turns to animal cruelty. It becomes his form of extreme content creation. The first big one, the one that went viral, was in 2010. It was called One Boy, Two Kittens.
Yeah, and the video showed him placing two small kittens in a vacuum seal bag and suffocating them.
And this wasn't some crime of passion. It was recorded, it was edited, titled, and then uploaded for maximum public reaction.
And it just escalated from there. Later videos showed him feeding a baby kitten to a python. This increasing brutality, that was his content strategy.
And what happens next is so critical to this whole story.
The online community itself just immediately formed a counter-response. You had people like Deanna Thompson and John Green, just regular people, forming this group whose only goal was to find him. They saw the pattern immediately.
Their fear, which they talked about all the time, was that he was going to escalate.
Of course. They cited history. So many notorious serial killers, Ian Brady, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ed Kemper, they all started by torturing and killing animals. These amateur investigators saw the marker way before law enforcement did.
And this just perfectly illustrates this idea from criminologists about how in our modern attention economy, the difference between fame and notoriety, it's basically gone.
It's totally collapsed. It means visibility is everything. And Magnotta understood that. If you can't earn the spotlight, you can always just seize it through the most shocking, heinous acts imaginable. And the internet is your global stage.
His goal wasn't just to commit violence, it was to become the most viewed violence.
And he lived up to their worst fears. In 2012, a reporter from Britain's The Sun confronted him about the animal videos.
And his reply was chilling. It was basically a manifesto.
It was. He warned the paper that his next victim, and I'm quoting here, won't be small animals. It was an explicit warning that he was about to cross the final line.
And just weeks later, he did. May 24th, 2012, Magnotta meets Jun Lin, a 33-year-old international student in Montreal. He met him through a Craigslist ad.
The very next day, the video Lunatic One Ice Pick was posted online. It documented the killing and the mutilation of Jun Lin.
But the violence itself wasn't the end of his content creation, was it?
No, not at all. The next phase was all about maximizing shock value and keeping himself in the headlines.
He dismembered the body. The torso was left in a suitcase in an alley.
And then came the targeted dissemination. This was so calculated.
He mailed Jun Lin's left foot to the headquarters of the Conservative Party of Canada in Ottawa.
Right. And a left hand was addressed to the Liberal Party, though that one was intercepted.
And the head was found later in a park in Montreal.
Sending body parts to rival political parties, that guarantees two things: maximum media coverage and a national panic. He was literally inserting himself into the Canadian public psyche through terror.
And of course, Magnotta fled immediately. First to Paris, then Berlin.
But his downfall was just the perfect poetic end to his digital narcissism.
He was arrested at an internet cafe in Neukölln on June 4th. The shop owner recognized him from the news.
And what was he doing when they found him? He was sitting there reading online articles about his own crimes. He was consuming the very notoriety he'd manufactured.
The trial was in 2014. He was found guilty of first-degree murder, got a life sentence, no parole for 25 years. But the source material gives us another fascinating wrinkle there.
It does. His defense focused heavily on diminished responsibility, mental health issues.
Classic strategy.
But Magnotta reportedly claimed the opposite later on. According to one author who worked with his mother, Magnotta said that whole defense was pushed on him by his lawyers. He apparently said, "I have no mental illness whatsoever."
So a calculated act, not a psychotic break. That brings me back to the online sleuths. Their immediate fear because of the animal cruelty. How solid is that link? What does the actual science say?
And this is the second crucial part of our deep dive. We have to shift from the spectacle of Magnotta to the predictive marker of animal cruelty itself. And the short answer is their intuition was overwhelmingly supported by the data.
So let's look at the sources. We're moving to the 2006 Swiss National Self-Reported Delinquency Survey. Why is this particular study so important?
Because it's big and it's non-clinical. It's not just looking at known offenders or patients. This was over 3,600 typical teenagers, ages 13 to 16. It gives us a representative sample.
And the prevalence of animal cruelty among just, everyday teenagers is significant.
It really is. The study found a lifetime prevalence of 12% overall among these teens.
12%?
Yeah, which breaks down to 17% of boys and 8% of girls. This is not some rare fringe behavior.
And what did they find when they asked these kids how they felt about people hurting animals?
Well, most were horrified, obviously. But a small group, 2.4%, said they felt animals deserve it or it is fun. But the bigger finding was the correlation. Animal cruelty was strongly correlated with specific types of delinquency.
What types?
The highest correlation was for serious offenses, things like vandalism and what the study calls serious violent acts.
Which would be things like assault, robbery.
Exactly. Assault, robbery, snatching. And importantly, the link was much weaker for minor stuff, like shoplifting or skipping school.
So it's not a sign of just general teenage mischief. It signals something more aggressive, more targeted. But you always hear that correlation isn't causation. Did they control for other factors, like gender, family problems, self-control?
That's the key. They did. They used multivariate analysis, which is a statistical tool to basically strip away all those other factors.
And after they pulled all that out, what was left? Did the link disappear?
It absolutely held true. This is where the data goes from just an interesting correlation to a powerful predictive marker. The researchers concluded animal cruelty is an independent risk factor for serious violence.
Give us the hard numbers, the finding that really drives this home.
Okay, so it's expressed as an odds ratio. Youth who admitted to animal cruelty had a 3 times higher likelihood. The odds ratio was between about 3.16 and 3.35 of committing serious violent acts and vandalism compared to kids who didn't.
3 times higher. That's a huge jump in risk. How does that compare to other predictors like gender or low self-control?
Well, according to the sources, its predictive power in this analysis was almost on par with low self-control and being male in predicting serious violence. It is not a secondary factor, it's a primary warning sign.
So why is this link so strong? Especially for acts that involve anger like assault and vandalism.
For researchers really debate 2 main theories here. The first one is called learning theory.
A rehearsal for violence.
Precisely. It suggests cruelty to humans is the final step in a training process. Hurting animals helps you practice aggression, and more importantly, it helps you neutralize those internal inhibitions. The empathy you might feel, it desensitizes you.
So you get a low-consequence target to practice on before you graduate to a human one. What's the other theory?
The second is the poor self-control, anger control perspective. This one sees violence against animals and humans as two sides of the same coin.
So they aren't steps in a process. They're just manifestations of the same core problem.
Exactly. The same underlying issue. High aggression and poor anger regulation. The violence doesn't escalate because they learned from the cat. It escalates because they have this unstable rage that's just looking for a target. First an animal, then a person.
And the Swiss study seems to support that idea, right? Since the strongest link was with offenses driven by anger, like assault and vandalism.
It does. It suggests animal cruelty is a really strong indicator of this underlying anger control failure.
And this isn't just an academic idea. The clinical world has seen this for decades. Cruelty to animals has been a diagnostic criterion for conduct disorder in the DSM since, 1987?
It has, and it connects right back to Magnotta. Whether his actions came from the desensitization of learning theory or just poor anger management channeled into a quest for notoriety, his progression fits the scientific data perfectly. He chose offenses with the maximum component of anger and violence to get famous.
So bringing it back to the man himself today, he's serving his life sentence, eligible for parole in 2039.
Right. He was originally in maximum security Port Cartier, but in 2022 he was moved to La Macasa Institution in Quebec, a medium security facility.
And the conditions there have drawn some criticism. I remember a visiting MP described it as being like a university campus.
Yes. The sources say his life now involves playing video games, watching movies, painting classes, exercising. He gets money orders for junk food from the canteen. It's a stark contrast.
It's also worth noting he married a fellow inmate, Anthony Jun Lin, back in 2017, and he has reportedly identified as transgender and changed his name to Violet.
So we followed this journey today from a desperate craving for fame to digital fabrication through this horrific escalation to murder.
And it's all anchored by this scientific proof that animal cruelty is a powerful and reliable marker for future violence, especially violence driven by anger.
The core insight really is that the online investigators were right. Cruelty to animals isn't a minor thing. It is a sign of serious maladjustment that strongly predicts a risk of serious anger-driven violence. It's a critical warning sign.
So what does this all mean for us? The internet didn't create Magnotta's violence, but it certainly amplified his craving for notoriety. The attention economy was the fuel for his escalation.
And this leaves us with a really important question. If animal cruelty is statistically such a robust marker for violence, especially violence tied to anger, how do we as a society balance privacy and monitoring when people like Magnotta broadcast these dangerous behaviors online in real time? You saw the marker. The question is, how and when can we responsibly intervene?